My beloved child, stop scrolling and remain here for this moment, because what you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. Something has already begun moving toward you, and although your eyes have not yet witnessed it, your spirit has felt its approach. That strange restlessness in your heart, that quiet sense that your life is standing at the edge of a beautiful change, is not your imagination. Heaven has been preparing you for a revelation that carries more weight than you realize. Someone has decided to marry you. Do not rush past those words. Let them settle deeply within you. Someone has crossed an invisible line in their heart. They are no longer wondering whether you are the person they want beside them. They are no longer treating the future as a distant possibility. A decision has been made in silence, and somewhere, hidden from your sight, a ring is waiting. Stay until the end, because the greatest part of this message is not simply that a ring exists. It is the reason this person finally became certain about you, and the private moment that changed everything inside their heart. For a long time, this person carried feelings they could not fully explain. They tried to remain calm when your name was mentioned. They attempted to convince themselves that time would weaken the connection. They focused on responsibilities, distractions, and the ordinary demands of life, hoping that the intensity would become easier to manage. Yet the more they tried to move normally, the more clearly they understood that something about you was not ordinary. You had reached a place within them that no one else had ever touched. It was not only your appearance, although they have remembered your face in moments when they should have been thinking about something else. It was not only your voice, although certain words you spoke have returned to them at night. It was not only your kindness, although they have compared the way you made them feel with every other connection they have known. It was the peace. There is a kind of peace that cannot be forced, performed, or imitated. Your presence awakened that peace in them. Even when the situation between you was uncertain, even when silence created distance, even when misunderstandings made the path feel impossible, something within them remained connected to you. They could walk away from a conversation, but they could not walk away from the feeling. They could ignore a message, but they could not silence the truth. They could pretend to be unaffected, but in private, your memory continued to follow them. Do not skip this part, because heaven wants you to understand what happened next. There was a moment recently when this person imagined their future without you. They did not plan to do it. The thought appeared suddenly, perhaps during a quiet evening, perhaps while watching another couple together, perhaps while hearing someone speak about commitment, marriage, or growing old beside the person they love. In that moment, they pictured years passing. They imagined achievements, celebrations, new places, changing seasons, and ordinary mornings. But when they attempted to see that life without you, something inside them became painfully empty. The future looked complete from the outside, yet it felt hollow within. That was the moment the truth became impossible to deny. They did not merely miss you. They did not merely desire your attention. They did not simply want another conversation, another meeting, or another chance to feel close to you. They wanted a life with you. They wanted to know what it would feel like to wake beside you when the world was quiet. They wanted to hear your thoughts after a long day. They wanted to protect your dreams without controlling them. They wanted to stand near you during difficult seasons, not only during the beautiful ones. They wanted to create memories that would not disappear after a temporary chapter. And when that realization entered their heart, fear entered with it. Yes, fear. Not fear of you, but fear of losing the opportunity. Fear that they had waited too long. Fear that someone else might recognize your value while they were still gathering courage. Fear that you had already begun closing the door. Fear that the silence between you had said more than they intended. This person began reviewing the past. Conversations returned to them with new meaning. They remembered moments when you were patient, even when you had every reason to walk away. They remembered times when you tried to understand what they could not explain. They remembered the emotional strength you carried quietly, the way you continued moving forward even when your heart was tired. And something about your strength humbled them. They realized that you had not been waiting because you were weak. You had been patient because your heart was sincere. You had not cared because you lacked options. You cared because you saw something real beneath their confusion. But listen carefully, because this is where the message becomes deeper. The decision to marry you was not made in a grand public moment. There were no crowds. There was no music. There was no dramatic announcement. It happened quietly, in the hidden chamber of the heart, where no one could influence the answer. Your person asked themselves a question. Not, do I love them? That answer had already become clear. The question was, am I willing to become the person who can truly stand beside them? For the first time, they understood that loving you would require more than emotion. It would require courage, honesty, stability, accountability. It would require them to release habits that created distance. It would require them to stop hiding behind uncertainty. It would require them to speak what they had kept buried. They knew that a promise to you could not be made carelessly. You are not someone they can approach with half a heart. You are not someone they can choose only when it feels convenient. You are not someone they can ask to build a future while still carrying the patterns that damaged the past. This realization shook them. Something huge is waiting for you, but before it arrives, this person is being confronted by everything within them that must change. They have begun separating their true desires from their fears. They have started questioning the advice of people who never understood the depth of this connection. They have noticed how often outside voices made them doubt what their own heart already knew. Some people encouraged them to remain detached. Some told them not to become serious. Some suggested that commitment would limit them. But none of those people felt what they felt when they thought of you. None of them carried the memories. None of them knew how your absence changed the atmosphere. None of them understood why this person could be surrounded by others and still feel that the one presence they wanted was missing. So your person began to withdraw from those voices. They stopped sharing every detail. They became more private. They protected the decision while it was still becoming strong. And somewhere within that private shift, the idea of the ring appeared. At first, it may have felt impossible, even to them. They may have looked at rings online, passed a jewelry store, noticed a design on someone's hand, or heard a conversation about proposals. What seemed like a passing thought remained with them longer than expected. They imagined your hand. They imagined your expression. They imagined the moment when surprise would move across your face and your heart would understand what their words had struggled to express. That image did not frighten them as much as it once would have. It brought peace. Do not leave now, because the ring is connected to a promise they have not yet spoken, and the meaning behind that promise will change the way you understand everything that happened between you. This person has begun to see that the delays were not proof that the connection was false. Some delays were created by fear. Some were created by immaturity. Some were created by circumstances neither of you could fully control. Yet within those delays, something was being revealed. You were learning not to abandon yourself while loving another. They were learning that true love does not remain available forever without action. You were learning boundaries. They were learning responsibility. You were discovering your worth. They were discovering the cost of hesitation. There were days when you wondered whether your heart had misunderstood everything. You questioned why a connection that felt so meaningful could also feel so complicated. You may have asked heaven why clarity seemed to arrive in pieces rather than all at once. But the pieces were forming a picture. You could not see it then because you were standing too close to the pain. Now the picture is changing. Your person has reached a point where the possibility of losing you feels more frightening than the vulnerability of choosing you. That is the turning point. For so long, they feared saying too much. Now they fear remaining silent. For so long, they worried about moving too quickly. Now they understand how much time has already passed. For so long, they questioned whether they were ready. Now they are beginning to realize that readiness does not mean the absence of fear. It means deciding that love is worth facing the fear. They have decided that you are worth it. There is another detail you must hear. Someone close to this person has noticed the change. This person may not have revealed everything, but their behavior has shifted. They have become more thoughtful. They have asked questions about marriage, timing, finances, family, or the future. They may have casually brought up rings or commitment while pretending the subject was general. But the person listening recognized something. They saw your name hidden behind the questions. They understood that this was not curiosity. It was preparation. A conversation occurred, and during that conversation, your person was asked something direct. They were asked whether they could truly imagine marrying you. For a moment, they became silent. Not because they were uncertain, but because the answer carried such emotional force that saying it aloud made the decision real. Then, quietly, they answered. Yes. That single word changed the atmosphere. Once spoken, it could not be taken back into hiding. Your person heard their own truth, and something inside them settled. The person they were speaking with may have been surprised by the certainty. Perhaps they expected hesitation. Perhaps they knew about the difficulties, the distance, or the misunderstandings. Perhaps they asked whether your person was serious. And your person did not laugh. They did not change the subject. They did not pretend. They said something about you that they had never said so clearly before. They spoke about your heart. They spoke about the way you remained in their thoughts. They admitted that they had tried to imagine choosing another path, but every path eventually brought them back to you. They confessed that no one else felt like home. Stay till the end, because what happened after that conversation is the reason the ring is no longer just an idea. The person listening offered advice. They told your person that if the decision was real, it could not remain trapped inside private thoughts. Love must eventually become visible. Intention must become action. A future cannot be built entirely in imagination. Those words stayed with your person. Later, when they were alone, they began considering what action would look like. They thought about reaching out. They thought about telling you the truth. They thought about apologizing for the moments when their fear made you feel unimportant. They thought about how to explain that their silence was never the absence of feeling. But they also knew that words alone might not be enough. Too much had remained unspoken. Too many moments had passed. Too many questions had been left inside your heart. So they began thinking about a gesture that would carry the weight of the decision. That is when the ring became real. Not necessarily purchased at that exact moment, but chosen within the heart. The style, the meaning, the promise, the future it represented, these things began forming with surprising clarity. Your person may already know what kind of ring would reflect you. They have noticed more than you realize. They remember what you admire. They remember your taste, even if you only mentioned it once. They remember whether you prefer something simple, elegant, timeless, or distinctive. You may believe they were not paying attention. They were. They remember details that would surprise you. They remember the way your eyes change when you speak about something meaningful. They remember the kind of love you said you wanted. They remember what commitment means to you. They remember the wounds you never wanted repeated. And because they remember, they know that a proposal cannot be empty theater. It must carry truth. It must be supported by changed behavior. It must be offered with a heart prepared to remain. Heaven is not showing you this message so that you will chase, pressure, or force an outcome. You are being shown because your heart has been carrying confusion, and confusion has made you question your value. Your value was never the problem. Their fear was the problem. Their timing was the problem. Their inability to communicate was the problem. The connection itself was not weak. It was surrounded by unhealed places. But something has shifted. This person has begun doing the inner work they once avoided. They are confronting the part of themselves that runs when emotions become serious. They are facing the memories that taught them commitment would end in pain. They are recognizing how past disappointments caused them to doubt even genuine love. They do not want to carry those fears into a marriage with you. That is why some movement may still be hidden. The decision has been made, but preparation is unfolding. Do not mistake preparation for rejection. A seed beneath the soil appears invisible, yet it is not inactive. Roots are forming before anything breaks the surface. In the same way, your person is arranging things you cannot yet see. They are thinking about stability. They are considering conversations that must happen. They are planning how to approach you without creating more confusion. They are wondering whether you would still believe them. That question troubles them more than you know. They fear that when they finally speak, you may protect yourself by doubting every word. They know they gave you reasons to become cautious. They know that promises cannot erase the past instantly. So they are searching for a way to show you that this time is different. This is why the ring matters. To them, it is not merely jewelry. It is evidence of a decision. It is a circle with no visible ending, representing the life they want to build with you. It is the answer to the fear that kept them wandering between love and hesitation. It is their way of saying, I do not want to lose another season pretending I can live without you. But there is still something they must face before they can place it in your hand. A final obstacle remains. Not another person who can steal what is meant for you. Not a dark force with power over your destiny. The obstacle is more personal than that. It is the truth they have not yet confessed. There is something your person believes you need to know before they ask you to share a life with them. They do not want to begin a permanent promise while hiding a part of the story. This truth has been sitting heavily within them. At times, it has made them delay. At times, it has made them question whether you would still choose them if you knew everything. They have imagined telling you. They have rehearsed the words. They have started the conversation in their mind and stopped before reaching the hardest part. But now the ring has created a deadline within their heart. They understand that they cannot move forward without honesty. They must tell you. And when they do, you may finally understand why certain moments between you felt so confusing. You may understand why they disappeared emotionally when the connection grew deeper. You may understand why they acted distant immediately after moments of closeness. You may understand why they sometimes seemed ready to choose you, only to become silent again. It was not because the love disappeared. It was because the love became powerful enough to expose what they had been hiding from themselves. Your connection became a mirror. Through you, they saw both the future they desired and the wounds they had not healed. That is why being near you felt beautiful and terrifying at the same time. You awakened hope. And hope is frightening to someone who has survived disappointment by expecting less. But they are no longer satisfied with expecting less. They want more. They want you. They want the ordinary days, not only the intense moments. They want shared meals, small jokes, quiet support, difficult conversations, family gatherings, celebrations, and the comfort of knowing that neither of you must keep guessing where you stand. They have begun imagining how they would ask. They have considered places connected to your story. They have imagined whether the moment should be private or surrounded by people you love. They have thought about what they would say before revealing the ring. And every version begins with honesty. They want to tell you that you changed them. Not by forcing them, but by showing them what real love requires. They want to tell you that your absence taught them what your presence was worth. They want to tell you that the thought of losing you became the moment they finally stopped running from themselves. They want to tell you that they have made a decision. A real decision. Not another temporary emotional promise. Not another, maybe someday. They want a life with you. Even now, as you hear these words, there may be a quiet confirmation moving through your spirit. A memory may have surfaced. A name may have entered your thoughts. A feeling may have risen in your chest before your mind could explain it. Do not force the feeling. Simply notice it. There are things the heart recognizes before evidence arrives. But remain grounded, beloved child. Your destiny is not built on desperation. You do not need to chase signs or turn every coincidence into certainty. What is true will become clear through honest communication, consistent action, and peace. The person who has decided to marry you must still show you. They must step forward. They must speak. They must prove through actions that the decision is strong enough to support a shared future. And they know this. That knowledge is why the next step is so important. Something happened after the conversation about marriage. Your person went somewhere alone. It may have been a store, a familiar place, or simply a quiet room where they could finally listen to their own heart. They opened something. A box. A photograph. A message. A page containing rings. And for the first time, the future did not feel distant. It felt close enough to touch. Their hands became still. Their breathing changed. They saw one particular ring, and an immediate thought entered their mind. That belongs to them. Not because an object can own your destiny, but because the design reminded them of you. Something about it carried your energy, your strength, your softness, your quiet brilliance, your ability to remain beautiful even after difficult seasons. They stared at it longer than they intended. And then they made a private promise. They promised that if they were given the chance to stand before you again, they would not waste it. They promised that they would tell the truth. They promised that they would stop allowing fear to make decisions that love should make. They promised that they would become worthy of the future they were asking you to share. The ring is waiting because the moment is not fully prepared. But it is closer than you think. A conversation is approaching. A truth is preparing to come into the light. A decision that has existed in silence is moving toward expression. And the person carrying it is more emotional than they are allowing anyone to see. Tonight, or during the next quiet moment, they may think of you again. They may look at your photograph. They may reread an old message. They may remember a moment when you looked at them with trust, before confusion created walls. That memory will push them forward. Because they now understand that there are moments in life that do not return forever. There are doors that remain open only until the heart has learned what it must learn. They do not want the door to close. They do not want to become someone who spends years wondering what would have happened if they had simply been brave. So the decision has been made. The ring is waiting. The words are forming. But before the proposal, before the promise, and before the future can begin, they must reveal the one truth they believe could either bring you closer than ever before, or cause you to turn away completely. And what they are preparing to confess is connected to the exact night when everything between you changed.